Hello, and welcome to our first What's Working panel. I am so excited for this. This is going to be a really interesting conversation with our panelists that we have here that you'll be meeting in just a moment. But today is really all about figuring out what's working right now because what was working often is not currently working. So we're going to dig into exactly what is working with each of our three panelists. So speaking of our panelists, let's get the three of you to tell us a little bit about you and your business. Adriana, do you want to kick it off?
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm Adriana with Ava and the Bee. We're an in-house marketing studio for wedding professionals. I'm a former bridal boutique owner, wedding planner, and florist. I've been in the industry since 2009. What worked in 2009 definitely doesn't work. Unfortunately, I can't use those fun like sepia Instagram filters anymore. That really blurred out and made my face look good. But yeah, I'm really excited to be kind of talking about different things we're seeing on our side of the marketing world and kind of what's working for clients.
Can't wait to hear about it. Amanda, tell us a bit about you and your business.
Hi, I'm Amanda Barrett. I'm in Houston. I'm the marketing director for three wedding venues, a small, medium, and we're building a new large one out in Fulshire. So I've been in the wedding industry since 2010. And like Adriana said, nothing that we knew even last week is still working this week. So it's an ever-changing puzzle that we all work together to solve.
It definitely is. I'm seeing it too. Angie, tell us a bit about you, your background, and your business.
Sure. Hello, I'm Angie Oven. My store is in Oregon. I'm a bridal retailer, and I have to explain myself really quickly, though. I'm hosting a bridal retreat this week, and today is 80s Day, so I only look like this on an 80s day because I lived in the 80s and I'm far past that. So I own the bridal gallery, and I'm also the lead advisor for our local small business development center. So that gives me an opportunity to really work with a variety of different businesses, not just bridal. I love coaching, and that is really a passion of mine. And then I'm currently vice president of the Better Bridal Group as well. And we also have an upper level education called Engaged Beyond the Basics. And that really just zeroes in on owners that are truly looking to scale their businesses and looking for that higher level education, which is what we're doing here in Las Vegas.
I love that. And I love the theme. Everyone loves a good 80s theme, right?
I appreciate your grace today because I'm not an aqua eyeshadow kind of girl. So
Anymore. None of us are
anymore.
anymore.
It's true. Okay, fair.
Well, I'm really curious. And Adriana, I want to start with you because I know you have done a ton of research into groups with couples, with brides. And I'm curious to know what you're hearing them say, what you're seeing them ask about. What are the conversations that you're seeing take place in these areas where they don't know that someone like you is hanging out?
Yeah, so I am an over 60 Facebook group, Reddit, Discord. I have a separate phone for it. When it comes out, my husband goes, "Oh God." Sorry, hopefully you don't hear the pounding. My roofer decided to come also right as this event started. Um, so there's a few things that we're seeing these people talk about a ton. The first one is price transparency. It is officially the name of the game. If you do not have pricing on your website visible, they are not going to contact you. They will literally post straight up, "I can't find a photographer that has pricing." So this is also regardless of budget. So I work with a lot of clients that are in that mid or high end. Their weddings are 250 to 500,000, and it's even with them. They are still saying that if they don't have pricing or some kind of structure, they are just losing out on people who simply do. So it's really about trust. When we're hiding our pricing, we're literally just starting this very intimate relationship with a sense of mistrust. And post-pandemic, we are dealing with a lack of trust in the wedding industry. Everyone knew someone who had a disaster. They don't trust vendors. So what we need to be doing is thinking at the forefront, how are we going to grow that And a very easy one is price. So we always recommend averages. I don't suggest a starting at, because again, we all know starting at is 1% of your actual clients. We know they always end up getting a bigger package. We need to make sure we're having an average pricing. I don't care if you charge 100,000, it has to say pricing starts at, or, our average investment is 100,000. So that's a big one. It's an easy one also that you can literally go on your website and fix in the next, hour. The other thing is long contact forms. They do not want to jump through hoops to work with you. The longer sales process, the longer sales funnels just don't exist. Vogue.com actually had a really interesting article, Vogue Business, that literally studied Gen Z down to a science and how they're adjusting the sales funnel. And they're simply bombarded with options. So they're going to go with the easiest option. It's just a human nature thing. So where we're seeing this is your contact form. If you have more than 6 questions on your contact form, again, you're missing out to someone who has 3. So the biggest things is we need to remove anything that does not applicably apply. We need to get rid of any fluffy questions like, how did you meet? How did someone propose? What is the dream vision of your wedding? They don't even want to talk about visions because they're like, well, I don't know. Isn't that your job to tell me my final vision? Like, they are actively looking for a short, simple contact form. I also am really encouraging a lot of our vendors to not have a secondary questionnaire, just to book a call with them. Again, they're looking for a reason to not work with you, right? They're in an active stage of like, well, this one's too hard to work with. I have to jump through a hoop. So simplify your pricing, make sure it's clear, simplify your contact form, do not have a ton of options, and think of ways, and I'll talk about this a little bit later as well, but think of ways that you're going to be standing out in your market, whether it's through your package offerings, the imagery on your website, the branding, the messaging. Again, we're in a time where they have more brands than any other generation. So Gen Z literally have been exposed to more brands than even me, a millennial, have, right? They're being shouted even louder. And that's especially true in the wedding industry, where they go on Instagram and they type in Savannah wedding photographer and 742 options come up. How are we going to be standing out? So that way we are one of 3. Those are my big 3.
I love that. And I love your point of standing out. I'm definitely seeing that too, where we used to be able to compete in these broad categories of like venue, bridal shop, planner, photographer. And now we're having to slice those categories into more and more specific, like subcategories within that. And I think that's really important to bear in mind. I would also say to what you said about long contact forms, keeping in mind, and I've heard you speak about this, Adriana, that a lot of people are doing this on their phone.
Mm-hmm.
Those long contact forms are rough.
Yep.
On a phone. Like, they're not going to be writing paragraphs on that, and they're way more likely to abandon. So I think making those 2 really simple changes, like you said, that's a change you can make in an hour, you will immediately start getting more leads off of the people who are coming to your website. That's pretty exciting.
Oh, 100%. We had a client recently where she fought me and I said, test it. She got 4 leads in a week by having her contact form. And I was like, see, that's all it took, was getting rid of that teeny tiny barrier.
It's funny because it's like we think it's going to be this big hard thing, and sometimes it is, but that is such a small, simple thing that you can do. So thank you for that. Amanda, I'm curious, what sorts of conversations are you seeing? What questions are you getting?
What we're dealing with more is, what is my experience going to be? It's not where it used to be in the past. We could tell them how great we were and look at how beautiful we are, and they would book a venue based on the essence of it. Now they want to see how pretty it is. They want to see what they're going to get, how they're going to experience the evening, as well as how are their guests going to experience the evening. And so it's even once you get them in to do a tour, it's more of sharing the overall presentation that everyone is going to feel at the end of the night. It's not even the doing, it's not the food, it's the experience. The other thing that we're finding, we are all inclusive or full service. And we used to say full service, we do it all for you. And, one price includes everything. But in being that way, our pricing couldn't compete with those venues that were venue only rental, or they were, customizable, that kind of thing. So we had to go in and completely restructure our packages so that it was more of a venue rental price, and then a catering price, and then a bar package pricing, and then a vendor package pricing. And while we're still requiring that they cover the things like the DJ and the coordinator that come with our packages, the food, the bar, and that kind of thing, we then took each one of those elements and had to break it down into a small, medium, and a large. And so it's almost like we said, okay, this is our big price and we are great and wonderful, and everybody went away. And we had to come back to the drawing board and say, okay, you can have this piece and this piece. And then if you want a small bar package, you can go with the lowest bar package and come back in and do the biggest vendor package, so that it meets exactly what they need as far as their budget goes. But then in addition to that, we are selling them the essence of the experience that everyone is going to have in the end. The interesting thing about the last 6 months is that there was a point in time when you could do it just with Facebook, or you could do it with Facebook and Instagram. And I'm been with Agave since pretty much day one, where Facebook didn't even exist, and it was Wedding Wire and the Knot. But now, even the social media and the presentation that you're out there giving to them in that 3 seconds that you have them as they're scrolling through, it has to be an experience. It's not, this is what you get. They have to see the fun. They have to see the laughter. They have to see the joy and the sparkle at the end of the night. So that's been our biggest challenge. Before, we could do it with a very small team, and now one person can't do it. It's not a one-man show. It takes a team. It's a team effort, collaborating with advertising, and then organic social media, and then with sales, and then the sales presentation and the tour. And it's bringing all of those pieces back into one for just one booking. And it may take 4 months for someone to actually finally say, okay, I'm going to put down $25,000 and actually book your venue. It takes a lot longer than it has in the past. Those are the biggest changes for us.
What you were saying there about having that small, medium, large with each kind of made me think of, like, if you have a sound system and you have all of these different, volume bars, you can go high here and low here and medium here. I think if we think about it in those terms, it's really, I feel like it really comes down to the ability to customize. Like you were saying, it's not necessarily they want to spend less, it's that they want to spend more in certain areas and less in other areas. So kind of adjusting that mix.
It is. It's very much like that DJ dashboard with audio system. And the thing that we have noticed on the back end of it, and then the sales end of it, is it starts with the lead. And while you can do an automation in step 1, so that you get somebody who's asked about you at 2 o'clock in the morning because they want an instant response, it is the follow-up. It is the conversation. It's the texting. It's the calling. It's the email that you are engaging with them. And if it is not within hours of their first initial inquiry, you've lost them. You have to be on the game, and it's a 24/7 conversation. It's just constant.
How are you balancing that between getting people information right away versus then maybe taking it into a more, like, taking it out of the automation, taking it into a more perhaps personal follow-up series?
We start with one automated series, and we're using HoneyBook at the moment. We hope to shift to a new one soon. But we start with one automated series that will get us through the night. And then we come back and we say, okay, we just sent you an email with all of our pricing information. Check your inbox. And if it's not there within minutes, go check your spam folder. And we'll be in touch with you in the next few hours. So that gives us that window for the day to roll around and be able to then text them or call them, whichever they've preferred. And they, in our contact form, it actually states, if you want to be texted, then give us your phone number. Otherwise, we'll communicate via email.
I like that you give that choice and that you make it clear that it's about how you want to be contacted. I think more than ever, I think it's true with millennials, but I think more than ever with Gen Z, it's like consent to have this conversation in this way is really important.
But it is absolutely 100% building that relationship in the very beginning. The relationship starts the moment that they fill out that contact form. And if you don't engage with it as building a relationship with them, then we won't book them. So that's what we found.
I like that. It's that balance of it's not all automation. It's automation to get things started, to do the job that you can't do in the middle of the night, and then pick it up and run with it and have that more personal follow-up and conversation with them.
Right. As far as the 7 days a week, we take shifts. And so there's weekends that I take the phone and I'm actually engaging with them, texting with people, as if I was our main salesperson, but then that way everybody gets a weekend or everybody gets time off. So we just kind of float.
That's a good way to structure it. I like that.
Yep.
Angie, what are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, as a bridal shop, really, we're either first or second, right? We're part of that. They're engaged first, and then they're really choosing the venue and the dress in either order, but first and second. So what we're seeing is a very indecisive bride now. We are seeing the moms more involved than probably ever before. I'm on my 22nd year in this industry, and it astounds me how much these brides are relying on their moms. I'm actually doing some Gen Z training today at the retreat that we're at. And one of the things that I really want to talk with other owners about is the unconscious bias that we have about Gen Z brides. We all say, oh my gosh, they're so indecisive, they're not buying at all. The thing is, they're just very sensitive to being sold to. A term that they use now is thirsty. And if a stylist or really anyone in the industry comes off as too salesy, it's going to be really offensive to them. So it becomes really important. And the other lady said it really well. Building trust is the most paramount thing that you can do with this bride. We also have an unconscious bias that we assume they just spend every moment online. That doesn't mean that they don't value the face-to-face connection, though. We're seeing more of a budget bride than ever before. The thing is, they have money to spend. They're just very, very selective about how they spend their money. And so for a store owner, really for any business owner on the call today, it really comes down to how you're building value beyond the dollar signs. We assume that they're highly individual and they want something totally different from anybody else. And they do, it's true, but it doesn't mean that they don't value traditional elements. We're seeing today's brides still really want to build in some unique things from a mom's dress, from maybe a grandmother's dress, or, it's really popular right now to take an element from a deceased loved one's clothing and sew it into the inside of the dress. That still is very popular. So bringing in those personalized elements, but not just to be different, but to build connection and have real meaning and connection. Another thing, they do love nostalgia. That's true. Great word. They don't care as much about brand names. And we've seen that shift over the past, I would say, 5 to 7 years for us. Being in the Northwest, I feel like we're a full 2 years behind other stores, but They don't have the connection to the dress brands anymore, but they need to be connected to your brand. And a store that does a really great job with branding is building that connection and giving the bride something to connect to. A few weeks ago, I'm not in my store as much at all anymore, but I happened to be in on a Saturday. I was working with the mother of the bride, and this mom said, she didn't know that I was the owner, which is fine. I never really advertised that because I always feel like it takes some kind of authority away from the manager, but we were talking and she said, oh my gosh, I read the about me on the website, and the owner used to bring her young daughters here to paint stripes in her store. And it was my story. And it was so funny because she didn't recognize me as the owner. And it was really great to hear, because I realized in that moment that we are building our own brand, and that's what they're connected to. And that's why they came to the store. They're reading reviews more than ever. And that's part of the funnel, an important part of the funnel. Now we're hearing it more than ever. And we're not hearing drama, right? We're not hearing, oh, I read that one review. They say, we read your reviews, and they do want to hear your story. Mark, you're exactly right. They have short attention spans. It's true. So do I. But I do focus on the things that I'm connected to, and I do focus on the things that are meaningful to me. So these are not impossible brides. And, one thing I really want to drive home, this is not a bride that popped up today. This is a bride that we've been playing whack-a-mole with for, a few years coming now. So I think that it's all really come up for us this year. They're easily influenced by social media trends, but it doesn't mean that they're following what's trending on social media. They're interested in it, but it doesn't mean that that's exactly what they want to do. Some of the great things about a Gen Z, they're innovators, right? I love that they're environmentally conscious. That's a huge thing for us in the Northwest. So, I'm really working to find brands that are sustainable, find designers that have a story that I can connect with, because then I can carry that forward. They want authentic experiences. I find that they want great experiences, but they just want you to be authentic. So things that are working for us really, really well right now is we're pre-calling our bride and building that relationship. We've been, most of us have been doing that for 4 or 5 years or a little more maybe, but it's more important than ever. It's more important than ever that rather than asking, where did you try on dresses? They don't want to share that information with you. They feel that it's really intrusive and it's none of our business. But what they do want to talk about is what's important to them. Who's important to them? And I think it's really important that in the pre-call, you're really getting to the bottom of who's coming to that appointment. It's really critical now that you treat the mom very differently. The mom has a lot of emotions too. There's a lot of social media pressure on the mom. There's a lot of family dynamics with the mom. And it's really important that now we don't just get salesy in that appointment. We used to sort of body block the moms. I'm embarrassed to even say this, but if the mom had too strong of an opinion, we just kind of cut her out of the mix. And if you do that today, your sale is dead. So it's really critical that you're reading the room throughout that appointment. And when they come into your store, you're hospitable, you're happy to see them, you show gratitude and truly, truly thank them for coming into your store. We're seeing more brides than ever come back a second time to buy. They're not buying as often on the first visit. We're not as apt to offer first visit incentives anymore because it feels too salesy to them. So yes, Mark, you said it, love this, be good to mom. I was a mother of the bride, and it was landmines all through the planning process. And I'll never forget that. I love my daughter, and certainly, I was grateful to be part of the planning experience, but it was sticky. And it really gave me a different perspective on what today's mom is experiencing. If we had a helicopter mom, 10 years ago. We have a bulldozer mom now, but they have a lot more to protect, right? I mean, it is so dangerous in the world today, and they're so determined to protect their daughter from everybody. We launched a menswear store that's adjacent to our store this past year, Tuxes on Tap. We built out an experience for the guys, but I have to tell you, it's not easy money over there either. You know, the guys are also Gen Z. They're also indecisive. They're also very, very sensitive to being sold to and being told what to do. We used to be able to boss the guys around with no problem. Like they just did what we told them to do, but it's not like that anymore. So that's what we're seeing in the industry right now. But I'm really optimistic. I think that we're still in some great years for bridal if you pivot or maybe swivel.
I like that. And I really like your points about, you know, they really want the personalization in order to have meaning, to have connection, not just personalization for the sake of like, I'm different, you know, it's about what does it actually mean. That's a really interesting insight. I would love to ask all of you, Adriana, I'll come back to you on this. If we're comparing this year to previous years, what sorts of changes are you seeing overall?
Yeah, so there's a good couple. So the first one is, and this is a shift we've actually only been seeing in the last probably 5 or 6 months. So this is like real recent in terms of marketing. But couples are simply not booking from referrals as easily. I would say our inquiries for our marketing agency have increased where their issue is my referrals aren't booking me. I used to always book at this venue. This planner would send me someone and they would just not even think about it. I had one stationery artist who does about $500,000 a year in sales. And if you know stationery, that's like literally 5x the average stationer. And this is her first year she's ever felt that. She's like, I had never had a website. I didn't realize it was important. So we have to be really thinking about referrals are actively looking at all of our touch points now. So instead of the days, and this is again, high budget, the same, it's not just, oh, you referred this person. They're going to look at everything. And I mean everything. They're going to Google your name. So I want you to Google your name. I want you to Google your business name because I guarantee you probably haven't Googled it in a while. Because why would you? Look at what pops up. There is a very good chance Facebook pops up because you made a page 42 years ago and you forgot about it. Like maybe you tried a different platform at one point. It is probably coming up. There's a very good chance your Facebook and your Pinterest will come above your business name because of authority in SEO. So we need to be actually looking at what does that look like? Because if they're Googling your name because their planner sent you, and your website isn't updated, you're not in Wedding Wire profile, have super out of date images because you don't use them anymore. Your Facebook hasn't been touched in a decade. Your Pinterest is not great. They're looking at that and they're thinking, oh, maybe they're not in business post-COVID. Maybe they're not as legit, or I can't trust them. Again, name of the game, I feel like I'm going to say trust a lot, but it's really that important. Like if you were looking to spend $10,000 on something, if one tiny thing was out of place, you would 100% not shop with them. Like it has nothing to do with the wedding industry. This is literally just shopping in general. So I want you to think about that when they're in that active stage of really trying to narrow it down. What are we doing to make sure that we are not one of the people getting cut? Most likely means our website needs a lot of attention. Most of the people, when they come to me, they haven't touched their website in the last few years because we came out of a boom. They didn't have to, right? Last year, you didn't have to do anything to get a client. They just showed up. They just paid you money. It's not the case anymore. It ebbs and flows. We are currently in a slower season. It's going to be like this. We have to accept it. So what are we going to do to make sure everything is up to date again? Another one, and this is a bit more of the marketing strategy, is we have to be looking at Google's changes. Google is changing. Google is embracing AI. We have to keep that in mind when we're marketing because SEO is going to kind of stay the same, but Google is going to be changing. And one of the biggest things is what we are seeing actively is blogging. So blogging is an incredible SEO strategy. I could talk about it for an hour, but what we need to be doing is sharing that blog post. The problem that we are seeing is people, when they come to us and I look at their analytics and they're like, Adriana, I'm blogging, but they've never posted it. They didn't post it to Pinterest, to Instagram, and a newsletter, nothing. Google knows that. And why would Google show someone something if you don't even think it's good enough to share. We have been practicing the last 8 months. I've been using Google's AI feature, the search feature. We're beta testing it as anybody can beta test it, but we've been actively. And they are also really prioritizing social media platforms like Pinterest. So Pinterest is technically an SEO, but even places like TikTok, it's giving results. Reddit, it's giving results. It's giving results on more socially viable platforms than it sometimes is the actual website. So that's why we can utilize a platform like Pinterest. So if you have been blogging and you haven't been seeing a big increase, it could literally just be you haven't shared it in a while, and we just got to get those URL links out there. We got to kind of build that. Another one, and I'm not going to dive too deep into TikTok because most people groan when I say it. Y'all, it's the #1 search engine for Gen Z. Literally, statistically, it just came out like 3 days ago. Google even said it. Like, it is a search engine. They are actively using it. I know Mark does a ton of it, like with the ads component. They want genuine. Instagram stories are hot for a reason. If no one's looking at the feed anymore, they're looking at your Instagram stories, right? Why? Because they're on TikTok swiping all day, right? So we have to be kind of considering, I'm not saying you have to get on TikTok. I just want you to know actively people are going to be using it. So if your competition is on TikTok and you're wondering why they're exploding, it could just be because of that. And then the last piece I'm going to say is inclusivity. If you don't have inclusivity on your website, if you are using very gendered language, you will instantly be turning off people. It's an instant thing. They want to feel accepted. They want inclusivity. I am a huge component of share every single freaking event you do. Do not hide anybody. It is an honor. It is a joy. It is a privilege to be selected as a vendor. Don't hide them just because they weren't the most glamorous couple. Show them, they will notice. So inclusivity is the name of the game. If their wedding didn't have the best details, it's in a barn and you hate doing barn weddings, then fine, don't show the barn. You can still show the couple. So those are kind of my what we're having to really shift is focusing on inclusivity, really making sure that we're considering video, making sure we're sharing blog content, and really making sure that when we're doing audits for people, we're looking at every single platform and saying, okay, what does it look like when they search your name?
That's a really good point about referrals that I think is really interesting. I think people used to act immediately, just like, okay, I'll just book them.
Yep.
And I've experienced this as an elder millennial. I remember when I was looking for an accountant, I had someone refer someone to me, and I didn't just contact them, of course, because that's crazy to me. I researched them. I found a very late 90s looking website, and I found out that they do everything via email, which is not a secure platform to be sharing financial information. And I was like, immediately, no, I'm out. And I think that's what we're seeing more and more and more is like, yes, trust, but verify, like sounds great. I'll go check them out for myself.
Yeah, 100%. They are actively looking at it. I had a stat. I'm a big stat girl, and I'm trying not to bore y'all with stats, but I'll type it in the chat in a little bit. I'll find it. But there is a statistic out there that it talks about that they have to do their own research before buying. Like they will not pay. All right, well, I'm about to dump some stats in the chat. So just give me 1 second. I'll dump a whole bunch.
I love it. Amanda, what is different this year for you?
And I will play off of exactly what Adriana was saying. It's not one piece. It's all of the pieces, and they all have to be cohesive. They all have to give that 3-second excitement to it. It was a time that we could just do Wedding Wire in the Knot, and there would be some pretty pictures and some reviews, and ta-da, we were proven that we were what we said we were. But we have people who can go to Wedding Wire and then they look at the Knot and they compare, and then they'll jump over and they'll go see the website and they'll look at the pictures and they'll see those there. And then they jump into Facebook, or mom is on Facebook, and then the others are over on either TikTok or Instagram. And somebody will jump over to our Google platform, which we post everything that we do on Instagram. We post onto our Google page as well, so that it's constantly showing new images, new images, new images. And it may come back and say that we got that lead as an organic piece because they went directly to the website. when that is not the truth. It is, when you look at your analytics and you start to look at the stats, you have to look at all of them. And every one of those pieces, including the ads, including the organic, including the direct to the website itself, it's all a critical piece, and one plays off of the other. To say, I'm going to cut my budget, which, there are questions about that from time to time. You can't cut a budget here and then expect all of them to not kind of filter through. Each one impacts the other. And they, again, all have to be cohesive, and 200%, you've got to embrace TikTok. As much as you don't want to, it is there. It is evergreen. It lives forever, as so does Pinterest. And those two then funnel into all the others. Instagram and Facebook used to be the big things, but now you just got to play on a different field, and even bring in the YouTube. So for us, we have a photographer who's part of our package, and he does videography as well. We actually play clips of the weddings, once approved, on our YouTube, and then make those into shorts, because that in itself is a whole other platform that people aren't attaching to. They stay more on the social media part of it.
So what I'm hearing from you is, if you have the ability to be in a ton of different places, wonderful. If you're in a position where you don't have that ability, just making sure that what they're seeing in each of those places, because they are going and checking you out in each of those places, is what you want them to be seeing, is correct, is up to date, is in line with your actual brand.
It is true to what is actually happening on the day of, because you can come and you can take a clip, and there's such great editing material with the apps and phones and all that good stuff that you can come up with a really great reel. But if you get them on the property and you're not there really speaking what you have said that you're going to do and walking the walk, you can't provide it, and it will come back. It will come back and again and again. It'll come back in your reviews. Unfortunately, we have the reviews that then support what we've been saying. The other thing I would say with regard to the website is put those reviews on your website. Put those clips. Find the ones that are your golden nuggets, but don't just put them there and leave them and sit for 6 months. In 3 months, change them. In 3 months, put new pictures. In 3 months, put new reviews. It's got to shift. You've got a bride who came in December when she got engaged, but she's not ready to start looking for a venue until July. But she's been watching you. She's been shopping, and she's been silently watching and saying, okay, I want that one, and that one. And if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to be blessed that you've been one of those, you need to be ready for her.
I love that. Oh, that's so helpful. Angie, what sorts of things are you seeing in terms of change and how this year compares to previous years?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we're seeing is brides are shopping later and later and later. And for those on the call that aren't bridal store owners, understand that it's a trickle down effect. So if they're buying the dresses later, you can bet that they're doing other things and making other decisions later as well. There's more decision paralysis than ever before. And the other thing that we're seeing is they're just not connected to a dress. Something that we used to ask if they weren't ready to buy was a pretty routine question for a lot of us. And that was, well, if this dress isn't here when you come back, how are you going to feel? They actually don't care. And that question can actually really work against you now, because in that moment they realize, oh, I'm really not that connected to the dress. It really doesn't matter as much. And out the door they go. So, I think that we're dealing with a customer that isn't necessarily connected to the dress. They're more connected to the experience. And they're definitely more connected to the process. But mostly we're seeing that more last minute bride. I know just in my store last weekend, I can't even believe I'm saying this out loud because it's the first week of May. We saw 2 June brides that are still struggling to make up their mind. I mean, I think one bought, one didn't. And I mean, my mouth is just like hanging open because I can't believe they're still shopping for a dress. They really shouldn't even be shopping for accessories at this moment, right? So what we're really having to do as stores is make sure that we're really well stocked, make sure that you're working with companies that can deliver very quickly or carry a deep stock, and don't alienate them. I mean, I am, oh, hi, Charlene. Charlene is from Oregon. I'm super happy. I'm missing her at retreat right now, but I'm super happy to see her on the call. So hey, Charlene, I think we're missing the mark if we alienate these brides. And I was going to say that I have the worst body language. Like, I will just show on my face how shocked I am that they're shopping like 4 weeks before their wedding. And you can't do that, because that's another thing that really is going to turn them off. You really have to be empathetic and genuine. And another thing that we're seeing is the need for inclusivity. They want to see, they might be a size 4, they might be a size 6, but they want to know that that size 26 bride has just as many options as they do. They literally have genuine empathy just for humanity. So I think it's kind of a cool thing about a Gen Z. But we may never sell that super deep cocoa colored tulle and illusion that's going to be more for that African American bride. But it doesn't matter. You need to spend the money. It's like $8 to bring in a different color of tulle just to be able to show that inclusivity, that you can offer them different options. So that's what we're seeing. It's definitely a trend towards last minute shopping. It's a trend towards the need for just a genuine experience. I guess from a marketing perspective, it was really interesting to hear from the two other ladies, because more and more often a bride isn't able to tell us what one social media channel or one marketing channel they found us from. It literally is everywhere. So, I'm always nagging my team to say, hey, make sure that you ask, how did you hear about us? And certainly our bridal software has that feature baked in where you have to put that in, but it's not as important as it used to be. I think that you really do have to cover all of your bases and be present everywhere. And within that, I'm finding that it's really important to have consistent branding. You can have 5 other stores in your area that all have that same sort of bridal trend color, right? And if you're not standing out in some way, you really do get lost in just a sea of competitors.
Thank you. That is really, really helpful to know. And it's good to know. I'm seeing other people in the chat being like, yep, I've seen later and later, seen last minute. So it's
Yeah.
definitely not just you seeing it across the board.
It's not. And, I think for me, it's really mindset. I mean, I think you're going to jump to the next question, what's really working. But if I have one thing that I'm going to say to every bridal store owner, every stylist, understand that you have to change your own mindset. The Gen Z represents 1/5 of our population. Think of that in terms of, just the reality. Like, that's a huge percentage of our population. I'm a Gen Z mom. I have millennial as well. And, I do apologize to the universe for my millennial, but the Gen Z, I just think we have a great opportunity here. But we have to change our own mindset. We have to see them and meet them where they are. And that's what we spend a lot of time talking about as a staff. Otherwise, you're just going to be perpetually disappointed because you can't understand them.
That's really interesting that that's something that you've changed and you're seeing payoff is, I guess, anytime we have a new generation coming in, I definitely saw it as a millennial with all the ridiculous millennial talk. It's like, oh, those people and doing that thing instead of being like, I'm curious, like, how can I cater to what you need? How can I stand out to you? How can I, give you whatever it is that you need in order to make a good decision? And it sounds like that's working really well for you.
It's not, you're right, Mark. You just want to roll your eyes and go, oh my God, another burlap wedding. Like, no, but honestly, you have to accept that this is the new reality. They are our new shopper, and there's actually nothing wrong with them. I think too that you have to really understand who they are as humans, because they're not just our customer, they're now going to be our employees. And if you really don't take the time to understand them, and you need to be relatable as a store, as a person. We are really working on our follow-up system. Are we jumping into the what's working well? I feel like maybe
Yeah,
we
go for
are.
it.
Okay, let's do it. So what's happening before they ever step into our store is now probably the most important conversation. We used to have the stylist do the pre-call. We actually have a bride whisperer on our team that is a stylist, but she happens to be really, really skilled at the pre-calls. So she's the one that's in charge of all the pre-calls now. We have found that it's not as important to have the exact stylist work with that bride that called them on the phone before the appointment, but it is really important that they are excited to come to the store and that they feel wrapped around and cared about before they ever enter the store. Once they're in the store, what's working for us really well really is just being really genuine and really stopping to listen, being inclusive with the whole group. And it's don't look at the mom as the know-it-all friend, right? The mom is going to be your best friend, and it's really important that you're connecting with especially the mom in that situation. And then at the end of the appointment, be gracious. Thank them sincerely for coming. If they don't buy, that's okay, because more than ever we have an opportunity to bring them back to the store. So the last thing I would say in that is the importance of a great follow-up system, and something that isn't super salesy. That's something that we really had to examine. We have a lot of what we call smart flows, the just business flows that automate for us. So we're thanking them for coming in. If they bought the dress, we're urging them to come in and shop for bridesmaids or moms or alterations, accessories, menswear, whatever that is. And we stopped and really looked at our follow-up funnel to make sure that not everything was a sales pitch. And that was a really big game changer for us, in the sense that they really felt cared about. They actually would come into the store and say, hey, thanks for sending that text, and honestly, we're just sending them, even the guys too, get a text from us like, hey, how's it going? You're 45 days out. I bet this sucks right now. And, we're a really relatable brand. We brand ourselves as the bridal BFFs, and we try to keep it real and keep it casual. So we're okay with some of the more casual language, because we want to be relatable. But for us, it's really about making sure that not every piece of follow-up that we're doing comes off as a sales pitch. And we've seen movement in that. They really appreciate that.
Yeah, relatability and connection still do sell, even if it's not a direct pitch. I love that.
For sure, it's indirect selling. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's more important than ever. Amanda, what is something that you guys have changed that has really worked for you?
We've taken the nurture impact, or the nurture effect to it. So we're nurturing the relationship again, just as we've been saying all along. It's not a sales, and becoming too salesy is not the way to reach this generation. And the truth of the matter is that when somebody's coming in and they're going to book our venue, they're giving us one of the most important days of their lives, and we're going to bring a team that's the food, the bar, the venue, the officiant, the DJ, the coordinator. We have this team, and we're going to walk them down the aisle on this very special day. So it's nurturing the relationship and who they are, even from the point of on the morning that they're going to come in and book a tour, and they're going to come tour the venue. It's, hey, what are you taking your coffee? Let me have something waiting for you when you get here. Would you like for us to have a little bit of breakfast for you? We can make sure that we run by and pick that up. And we're reaching them as a person, not a sale. They are a sale, and eventually will become a sale if it is appropriate, and we are lucky enough to have them book us. But for the most part, it's nurturing that relationship from the moment that they say, I'm interested in you. What can you do for me?
I absolutely love that. Adriana, I'm curious what sorts of things you have been trying either for yourself or for your clients that you've really seen work.
Yeah, so it's a lot about messaging and education. So it kind of goes along with that nurture, that fact that we need to build that trust. So one of the most missed things when people market their business are the words they use. I feel like everybody's just like Instagram images or what are the pictures on my website or like photo, photo, photo. But they are actually really interested, and this is just Gen Z, this is just humans. We really want to hear what people have to say, right? So when we are able to really shift a lot of our clients and focus on their messaging, it can really make a big impact. Your words are what guiding them through the story, because at the end of the day, if you're a photographer, there will be at least 3 others in your region with a similar price point, with a similar editing style. If you are a planner, there will be 3. Like there will always be a few in every area that are going to be incredibly similar to you. It's nothing bad, but what you have to figure out is where am I going to be standing out? And a lot of times what we have found is it's the messaging. It's not the images, because they're going to think, oh, what's the difference? It's your words. So kind of in that same caveat is thinking about like, what are we messaging, is also how can we make sure that we are building trust through educational content? So this comes a lot with not just blogging, but Instagram. Instagram should never just be a picture with like cute photos might delete later as the caption. Like it needs to be educational. They want to learn, they want to understand. So for example, even something as incredibly basic as a discovery call can help get a client feel comfortable to book a call with you. I mean, just think about it. Like I'm a millennial, I'm 33, so I guess I'm a mid-millennial. I don't really know what I'm considered. But if you ask me to get on a phone call, I panic, 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 panic. I'm not going to do it. But if you told me what was I was to be expected on that phone call, if you were like, these are the questions I'm going to ask, this is what's going to happen, I would probably book that doctor's appointment, right? Instead of just like calling. It's the same thing for a vendor. So I want you to think about what are things that are pain points that my clients are dealing with on a daily basis that maybe I've just never explained anywhere. So that can be in a blog post, an FAQ, an Instagram, a newsletter. In fact, it should be all 4 of those, and you should repeat it every 6 weeks like clockwork. What are these things that they're going to be asking, and how can we build that trust through those education, through our words, and through our messaging?
Thank you for emphasizing the words. I think they get left behind for the pretty
So left
visuals of the
behind.
industry.
So left behind. And it's like if everyone kind of looks the same, they're going to be reading. I think we just assume that no one reads anymore. And like, yes, people aren't reading as much, but they're still reading. Like, it's not like we just forgot how to read.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We had a question here from Allison, who owns a bridal store. And she says, we have bands of pricing on our website, but continuously brides get to the store and their budget is lower than the band that they have selected. And we don't have any dresses in their budget. Do you have any suggestions? And Angie, do you have
Yeah,
anything there? Because I mean, you're in a similar.
yeah, for sure. Hi, Allison and Peter. I sure miss you guys this weekend. Okay, so we're seeing that a lot too. And that goes back to building value. Don't forget that the bride has the money in a lot of cases. They're just not willing to part with it if they don't think it's worth it. So there are going to be brides that literally just can't afford what you have. Not everybody is your bride. We ran into that quite a bit in the past couple of years. And the first thing that we did was we really tuned up our marketing, because the language is really important. The way that you present yourself on your website and through all of your channels can be tricky, because you don't want to come off as unreachable or unattainable for a bride, like they feel they can't afford you. Years ago, I had to literally dumb down my store windows because I had several people tell me the windows look too expensive. And it was such an eye opener for me. So I'm like, but I want really nice bougie windows, but I had to dumb it down a little bit. So I think you need to make sure that your marketing is really relatable for that bride. But you really need to focus on selling value, you guys. We are examining our pricing more than ever. And instead, from a pricing perspective, instead of pricing things up and then discounting them, or not pricing things, that has been a hot topic in our industry. we're examining our price points really on a bi-weekly basis, making adjustments where we can. And it's more like ready to wear than ever before. We're very quick to react. We're very quick to mark things down and just move it out of the store. But we don't feel as apt to mark it down for a bride, if that makes sense. So we're keeping an eye on our pricing and making sure that we're priced competitively, making sure that our merchandise is fresh, it's represented well. And that's another thing. I think you have to really look at the way you're merchandising. There's meaning in every decision that you make on your bridal floor. But don't make the mistake of feeling like everyone is your customer, you guys. Sell value. That's what I would say. Sell them on the value.
I like
And
that.
have those conversations in the pre-call. Don't
Yeah.
be afraid to ask budget. We don't shy away from the budget question. It's just all in your tone of voice. It's how you ask. One of the ways that we'll phrase it is, tell me what budget we need to be respectful of. And if they don't know what their budget is, it could be a smokescreen, or it could be they really don't know their budget, so back into it. If the way that we'll address that is, oh, you don't know your budget. I totally get it. Our average price right now is 1,500. How does that feel? And then stop talking. This is where you really have to employ the deadly pause and let them do the talking and set the stage, and then come back and respond.
That is an excellent response. Thank you so much for that. Um,
One of the things
see.
that, can I just jump in here real quick?
Yes, please.
In tying off what Angie was saying, one of the things that we did with our packages, our first outreach is a price range, but we actually also went in there and said an average couple will spend on a Friday night with this guest count, on a Saturday night with this guest count, and on a Sunday night with this guest count, giving the medium, the high end, and the low end, so that it is obtainable as to where our price range starting at really will fit into a budget. So it goes back to being available and giving them the customizable piece that's within that budget. They have the money and they're going to put it here or here or here. It's just where you're presenting it to them to pick their choice. It's giving their choice in the matter of it. They have control, not you.
I think that's so much of it is like people want to, it's less they want to be sold to, they want to be guided and they want to be able to customize and make their own decisions. And I think sometimes we feel like they don't really know how to make their own decisions, but they do, they just might need some guidance along the way. Let's see, we had another question here I want to make sure we get to. This came through from Curtis, Adriana, while you were talking about blogs. And Curtis asked, what sorts of blogs are performing best? Like tips and tricks, previous weddings? What sorts of content are you seeing work well?
Yeah, so it's definitely a mix. So whenever we're thinking of blogging, we're not just thinking of just weddings or just educational. We really want to mix. One, it's for a few reasons. It gives you different lengths. So just for context, a real wedding minimum for blogs is 300 words. That's for any page on your website, anything under 300 words. It's harder for Google to understand. So 300 to 500 words for a real wedding. We typically suggest 400 to 1,000 words for an educational. Anything above 1,200 words, break it down into a series. No one will read that much text. So in terms of the actual structure or topic, so anything educational, like I said, any FAQs, think of what they're searching for prior to you that you can get in. Venues will always be the top searched key term in any city of any kind ever. It'll typically be anywhere from 3 to 5 times more. So more people will be searching for a venue than any other vendor. So venue posts can do really well. Tying in other vendors also does really well. So collaboration posts with a planner if you're a photographer, etc. The biggest thing is when we're talking about real weddings, the biggest mistake people do is all they talk about is the couple, and nothing against the couple. I love the couple, but what did you do for them? Your reader cares about the couple a little bit. But for example, look at Style Me Pretty, look at Green Wedding Shoes, see the shift that they're talking about. They are talking about the details. They are talking about what the vendors did for them as well as the couple story. So you need to make it known immediately like what the vendor team did. So I have a photographer. What did you do that stood out? Did you help make a timeline? Did you know that the lavender fields bloom perfectly at 6:05 p.m. on a Sunday and you made sure portraits happen? You know, like what are we going to do to differentiate? So it's not just pretty pictures. It's like as the vendor team, what we did. So yeah, a good mix, focusing on educational, I think also a lot of times vendors, people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about another vendor in my blog or link to them. Like you need to, why would you not? Like you have to link to the other vendors, open it in a new tab, talk about the other vendor team. They are going to be the people who are probably referring you. And there's a really good chance that what happens if they are like, oh, I actually haven't thought about that florist. And it's like your favorite florist. Don't you want them to book them? So yeah, storytelling, like Natalie said, it's really a storytelling and slash what you did for them.
Yeah. Yeah. The way I talk about it a lot is like a case study. Like if you were presenting a case study, if you worked at a corporation, you're presenting a case study, you're going to talk about like the before, during, and after that this client went through with X product or X service. And it's very much the same thing. I think we just kind of forget that like very common structure of storytelling of like before the wedding, during the wedding, after the wedding, and what their whole story, their whole experience was like, and what your experience was like in putting this together. So I think that's a really good point. The shift that has to happen between just talking about the couple to talking about, okay, how did you actually work together in whatever service or product you provide? All right. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. So as we are wrapping up here, if you guys have questions, I would love to give you a way to ask our panelists those questions after this. So where can people go to reach out to you, to learn more about you, to connect with you? Adriana, I'll start with you.
Yeah, you can come hang out with me on Instagram at Ava and the Bee. As Heidi knows, I'm a DM open book. I will tell you everything. I gatekeep literally nothing. So any questions, you want me to look at something, DM me, and then visit me at avaandthebee.com if you want to learn more. But I'm mostly on Instagram.
Like a true millennial.
Like a true millennial, baby. That and Pinterest.
Amanda, where can people go to connect with you?
You can find us on agaveestates.com. You can catch us on maravillakatie.com. And our newest venue that we're building is the stablesonthebrazos.com. And you can click through on any one of those. You can find us on social media, TikTok, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google, and in good old Facebook. So yeah.
All the
I
places.
am an open book as well. I have a lot of friends who are venue owners as well. We always go to lunch and collaborate and talk about, what's working for them, what's working for us. So I'd love to talk to anybody, pick each other's brain and see how we can help one another be successful.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Angie, how can we connect with you?
Yeah. So you can email me at Angie@betterbridalgroup.com. Our handles, my email for my store is Angie@bridalgallerysalem, SALEM. We're pretty easy to find online. And then our handles are Bridal Gallery Salem, and Tuxes on Tap is our menswear store.
Thank you.
And I too am an open book. It's just important that we all know that we're here collectively, right? I love the collaboration and I love working with other people in the industry too. Super fun. Thanks for having me today.
Yes, thank you all so much for being here. This has been really interesting. I have like pages of notes in front of me. There are so many like really actionable things that you talked about that all of us can go and implement right away. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing. And Mark, thank you so much for bringing this lovely cadre of ladies together to talk about all of this. I am going to get this recording out to you as soon as possible. And thank you guys so much for being here. We'll see you again soon. Take care, everybody. Bye for now.